Okay, my presentation is on the influences of Lewis and Clark. So who are they? Meriwether Lewis was a trusted Secretary of State of Thomas Jefferson. He was chosen by Thomas Jefferson to lead the expedition, the Western America. William Clark was chosen by Meriwether Lewis as a trusted friend, a former Army member, and thought to have the ideal intellectual and physical strength needed on this journey. Both of these two men set out on the core discovery journey of Western America in 1804. So their goal and purpose of the journey, Thomas Jefferson was the visionary behind the whole expedition. He was the reason why it happened. The Louisiana Purchase was in 1803, which set up, in his mind, kind of set up the idea of Western expansion. Without the Louisiana Purchase, this wouldn't have been possible. He thought that it was America's destiny, kind of. It was, I don't know if you've ever heard the quote, manifest destiny, but that was his whole idea behind this whole expedition. So their journey. They started in St. Louis. They went up the Missouri River, across the Continental Divide into the Pacific Ocean. They turned back around. Their journey lasted 2.5 years, May 1804 to September 1806. Along the way, their journey, they encountered new weather and new terrain, which represented challenges throughout the journey. For instance, the Rocky Mountains, encountering them and the harsh winters that they hadn't experienced before. If we go back here, you can see that Lewis and Clark split up on their return back, and it was actually to better explore the land more thoroughly because there was a fork in the river. Along the way, they met Native Americans. Lewis ended up meeting the Blackfeet tribe. They represented a danger towards the fleet. They ended up robbing, trying to steal a bunch of their goods, and that wasn't good. So, and then Clark ended up encountering new, a rock structure he ended up naming after Sacagawea. So, meeting Native Americans, it was good and bad. For instance, they met the Mandans and the Hadista tribes, who actually gave them shelter during the harsh winters. It provided them with goods and direction along the journey. And Sacagawea was another. She was part of the Snowshoe tribe. I don't know how to say that, but she provided Lewis and Clark as a tour guide, showed them where to go. A bad example of a tribe that they met was the Blackfeet tribe that I mentioned earlier, and the Lakota tribe. They were also very dangerous. So there are multiple discoveries along the way. Lewis served more as a field guide, while Clark did most of the exploring and communicating with the native tribes. The multiple discoveries led to, so how the discoveries influenced their world. New land was explored, trade was expanded, and foreign relationships were made with the Indians for trade reasons. And that many natural resources were discovered. Lewis and Clark brought home many samples and recorded many instances where they saw new animals or new terrain and stuff like that. The most important part of their expedition was the expedition inspired farther expedition of the American West. How their discoveries influenced our world. So an example of how their discoveries influenced our world is the wheat industry and dairy industry in the Western Plains. With the farther expedition in the American West, there was more cultivation of the land. leading to the trade increasing. And America was the only country that could actually provide for themselves now, so the whole trade shifted. We were able to produce like a lot of grain and wheat, and there were dairy products from the cows and the farms. That led to a foundation for the American economy today. So just as a fun fact, today there's over 1,500 miles of plantation in the Western Hemisphere, or the Western America. It's called the Wheat Belt. 10.8 tons up to a year is produced of wheat, and it's valued at $9 billion and 50% of it's exported. So without Lewis and Clark and the farther expedition of the American West, this would not have been such a feat. So.